Hey everyone, how you doing today? Thought I would show you some updates to this ship that I did since the build video. So this is kind of the last one that I was working on, or the last version in the build videos. And I'll be doing more build videos, but I wanted to tool around with something, and I was kind of going through comments, and uh, yeah, there's a lot of potential issues with this design right now in certain areas. But this is where I ended up with, and if you guys seen the last video, you kind of understand how I got to where this one's at the moment. So the big issue I've got, and a few comments pulled up that they don't like this piece off to the side over here for these big guns. And yeah, I agree. I don't really like what I'm doing there either. It's just I'm trying to fit those in somewhere, and it's I guess this design isn't working out as good as I thought it might for a combat ship or a legacy combat ship at that. So anyway, I wanted to try to figure out a better way to mount guns to it, especially these big guns in the back. So the next revision here, I tried something that I totally don't like, and the idea of this was to have it make it look. I think a comment suggested something like this too, and it got me thinking that maybe I could make it look like a part of the ship like came out like on these beams over here, and it kind of pushed this chunk of the ship out like that. But I looked at it after I kind of changed all that around. I'm like, no, I don't really like that either. It's just not doing it for me. So yeah, it was worth a try. Now, a couple other things that were done on this version of the ship is I did modify the hull past the front section, and I widened it up one more block row from this point forward. So it's one block wider on both sides there, and that allowed me to I'm trying to get some more turret positions in here too. And this front assembly here, I may try to move that back to maybe around this location here. I haven't done that yet, but that was kind of the idea. And this also having the a little bit wider hull back here is allowing for these turrets to be separated a little bit more, so they're not quite as close together. Now, also, I made a modification on this one where I added some turrets up over on the sides here as well. Again, those are kind of in the back of the ship, so I'm fairly happy with those turret mount positions. The big problem I've got with this build, though, right now, I mean, there's probably a few problems, but the big one is trying to fit these gigantic guns somewhere in the hull that I just don't have front end space to do that with very nicely at all. Now maybe I could run something down the middle top too, and that was another reason why I widened it, to see if maybe somehow I could like put a gun, I don't know, in this general location looking this way, but I don't know if that's going to look right either. So also in comments too, it sounds like the heavy weapon count was increased, so I think you can go up to 12. Hold on, I'm going to just verify that a second. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, so max count is 8. Okay, 8. I think it was 6, and then it went to 8. So you can add 2 more. I think I just said that wrong. So you can have up to 8 of those. Like even this design here with these gigantic things I got over here, trying to make them look right. It's only 4. And I kind of, I wouldn't mind being able to max it out. If you're going to have a primary weapon, the more of that you've got, the harder hitting you're going to be. And time is the essence. I mean, if you can do serious damage in a short amount of time, you're going to have a better time with that fight in general. Otherwise, you're not going to make a lot of progress. So this isn't really working either, and it takes up too much room and blah, blah, blah. Now, I think I made another change to this version too, and I did make the front nose another block longer, and I got rid of the smaller thrusters I had here and put in drive thrusters instead. So I almost got rid of all the your medium-sized thrusters, except for the down thrusters back here. on this one. And it's got a couple little dinky ones here. So anyway, on to the next version. And this one, again, I'm trying something else down over here. And this time I'm trying to do like this angled formation that comes out like that, and trying to hold more of these guns too. And I'm trying to make them safer, sort of. But I don't know. It's missing an outer block wall here. So it's supposed to have a wall or like a shield piece or like a piece of armor or something that goes over that area. And I was trying the idea of like angling them down over there. I don't know about that either. Honestly, I'm not really liking that setup either. So I'm like going through my head thinking, well, how can I make this whole design like hold this stuff? And I'm a little, I don't know right now. I'm kind of like stuck, and I didn't know exactly where I wanted to take this whole, again, trying to fit these gigantic guns in here. I didn't have to do that with past like CV builds because these guns are relatively new for RE2 and things like that. So, or at least this size of weapon, and I definitely want to stack a lot of those the same type if I can. And this one's actually doing 6, but still not up to the 8 count. And so I'm kind of hit a little fuggly area here with the build. So I don't exactly know how to continue. My best thing is I got to figure out a better approach for adding these big guns to it. And this area, it's kind of weird how it's set up. I don't hate it, but at the same time, it doesn't look quite right either. So, one other approach I have in mind is maybe I try to embrace larger like wings, like bird of prey wings. And let me just show you a quick example of that. I'll get the Klingon ship out here. What was that called? Well, had that in it. Okay, so like this one, it did all this structure here for the side wings to try to make those look good. And then, of course, I didn't really have much parts to put out on the wingtips. I think it does have some guns in there, though. Yeah, it's got some gun placements there. But this would be another approach, but the rest of the ship really is not designed, or I don't think would look right with some larger wing pieces on it like that. It just wasn't supposed to be that way. It's supposed to look more like a, I don't know, frigate kind of thing. So man, it's just been really, really nightmarish trying to figure out how to get these guns on here. I mean, you only have so much front end space. And obviously, I want the whole front piece here. This turret's, by the way, going to probably go bye-bye. And these are going to be moved back. So I was listening to the comments. And right now, I've got turrets like plastered across the back part of this chunk. Now, this chunk could get a little bit longer, too. I think proportionally it would work if it was a couple blocks longer. So I think all these turrets here will be gone. And then your first turrets on the build would be in this position back here, which is going to give you quite a few blocks before it gets to that. Enough room to hide some decoys and stuff in the nose. And the nose could be extended out a couple more blocks too, pretty easily. So it's just one of those things. I think it's the same thing going on over here. It's just I'm not real sure on how to get this back part set up right now. And my only idea is to build like bird of prey wings or something like that for it, and try to see if that works. But honestly, I don't think it's going to work with this hull build. The rest of this ship is way different on its setup than this one, and I just can't imagine it looking right. So yeah, I just wanted to do an update, and basically I'm kind of pondering how I want to continue with this build right now, and I'm just trying to go through ideas in my head on what may be able to work. Again, in comments too, it suggested that, you know, especially if I go with the smaller model, and these are the smaller model version of the guns, they hit just as hard. They just don't have as much hit points. So I'm trying to put some effort in to protect those more, and that's why I even have like some Xeno wall liners in there. to maybe. I also hear they explode big. Like if these things get popped, they're big explosion, causes a lot of damage to everything, and that also makes me scared to like try to put those, like even if I had a spot to put it merge it into the hull itself, if they do get popped and they create a gigantic explosion, I don't want that pressed up against the hull of the ship. Then it'll cause a lot of internal damage, or you're going to need to spend a lot of heavy blocks to try to, seal it off and protect it and things like that. So having them out hanging down kind of away from the hull, I think is a better approach, at least on this build. But man, it's just trying to get it to look right. And again, since the count went up to 8 now it's like, yeah, I could try to extend this formation yet another one out there and put another row of guns down there, but it just looks kind of weirdly out of place, I think, how I got it set up right now. And I just kind of at the point where I'm just running out of ideas. I guess I thought this type of hull would be a good design for the type of ship, but and if it was just holding turrets, it would probably be fine. Or old school sized launchers. But right now, the launchers are so gigantic that you need that front end space to put them somewhere. And that is at, there's not much front end space. Now, I've seen other ships too where they have a big section like on the front, kind of like this ship is doing it. And then they wedge those like way back here and have these long tubes where they fire out of. It's not something I've ruled out, but at the same time, I didn't really want to do that because I want to fill this area with decoys and probably a lot of xenoblocks and that kind of thing. And I didn't want that to have like launch tubes going through the middle of all of that. So yeah, it's just a weird thing. Also on this one too, on that one the neck got widened up because I stretched out this area. And then again, I made the neck a little bit skinnier on this approach, and I did add a big down thruster here as well. And I'll probably get rid of these small ones up front here. However, they could actually be kind of used as something for the AI to shoot at, especially if they were pushed forward a little bit more. If you look at the front end profile, and even if I got these thrusters kind of exposed to the front end, and let's just say they're about where my cursor is right now. You've got a lot of like blocks because it is the top surfaces of the hull that would have to like go through to hit them thrusters. Again, if they're in a position like a little closer than where they are away from those turrets, but like somewhere over in this general area. So they're kind of like they're exposed, but at the same time it would take a lot of shooting for the AI to get them, unless, of course, the AI could get a better angle, like coming down at the top side, like here, and hit them. Then they would blow up probably instantaneously. Now, one other thing that's in my mind, too, is the recent battle that I had with me and Excalibur. I was using the Ridge Rat, which is souped up with a lot of guns and stuff on it. And we went after another Xerox destroyer, not Legacy Space, just a run-of-the-mill Xerox destroyer. And that fight went on and on. We did a lot of damage to it. We turned that ship into Swiss cheese over time. I spent all my ammo and still couldn't kill it. And still couldn't kill the ship. Didn't know it's got multiple cores. It's got like 8 or 10 different generator locations. So if you have like your guns and stuff shooting at generators, you'll probably just run out of ammo before you ever take the thing down. Don't know where the cores are, so I'm just randomly shooting holes in the ship, seeing if I could shut something down. And we did that for, I don't know, probably a good half hour. And like I said, we tore that ship apart. Even Excalibur even boarded it for a little bit on foot, and still couldn't take the ship down. And we both ran out of ammo and just had to leave it and go away and do something else. So that sucked. And at this point, I'm scared to death of him because I don't know how to kill him. And the amount of shooting and time and everything. And again, we didn't get any loot from it because we could never actually disable the ship. And also interior wise, he tried to go in there and tried to manually shoot out the cores once we damaged the ship enough. And it was also for a while stuck on an asteroid, which made it easier for us by quite a bit, I would imagine. But even at that, with some glitches and trying to walk through invisible walls that the game kind of doesn't handle, or it's got some kind of bug there, he couldn't get around in the ship to try to find the cores either. So it was just like a hour of wasted time trying to take this thing down. We never were successful. I went through tons of ammo, plasma ammo. My ship was all right in the end. I took front end damage like I normally do, but it was cheap. Didn't really lose much in the process, but except for all the ammo, all the pentaxid and all the stuff used to build that ammo, it just adds up and it takes a lot. And when you get nothing in return for it, except a damaged ship that you got to also pay for, it just it kind of sucks the energy out of you. Granted, we do want to defeat a Xerox destroyer at some point in time, but I think I almost need to bring ships into creative, and study them so I know where to shoot them at, because they're obviously these ships are built so they're really hard to take down, and that's cool. Kudos to the designers building them, but it's so psycho now that, man, and they're big ships, that it's well, how do you take it down? I mean, back in the day, say a ship had a couple generators on it, you could target the generators, you could blast through some hull blocks after a bit, and after you take down the shields and blow up the generators, and you'd be all right, and you'd be able to disable the ship. But when they got I don't know, tons of generators, it's just no, that just takes too much to go after the generators. So what do you go after then? It's you can try to shoot all its guns away. You can try to blow up all its thrusters, I guess. But then you're literally blowing up the loot that you wanted to get from the ship in the first place. And then by the time you doing the other approach like me and trying to tear giant holes in the hull until I find something to hit it, you're blowing away all the loot containers that way too. So by the time you're done, you got this mess of a wreck of a ship. You blew up most all the parts you would want to salvage. All the loot containers that were in there that might have anything good that you might want have all since despawned, and they're gone. And then you're just stuck with no ammo and probably a damaged ship, and it's just and it's why even bother? And as far as I know, too, you will not get your I don't know, you won't find a quantum core in it. Maybe you'll get some quantum processors and some decent parts out of those ships if you could actually loot them. And that's another thing. In my experience with the game in CV combat, it's been a mixed bag. Sometimes you can take down a ship and you can loot it and all goes as you would think. And in other times, something wigs out with the game and the ship is spinning around and you can't really loot it, and things happen, and it's just okay, well, it's kind of screwed. And I also learned something new too, that not with CV combat, but with SV combat, I went after one of those PPVs, or those planet side Xerox ships that fly around the Xerox bases and stuff like that. Took a couple of those out with my SV, which I actually found a fairly easy way to take those out with that SV. Has to do with where I'm shooting it at, where it can't really shoot me back, kind of thing. So it's kind of a cheat. But at the same time, if it falls on a polar region on the planet, it doesn't allow you to loot it or do anything with it either. So that's something I never even thought about when doing it, or I wasn't paying attention to where I was at the time when I took it down. But that happened. So I think later on it miraculously, even though it was destroyed and sitting on the ground, it changed its position and went somewhere else, and we were able to loot it for a couple minutes until it despawned. So there is that. So anyway, back to this one. I'm going to keep on trying to fiddle with it, and I did all this off screen because I wasn't really making any legit progress on the ship. I was just trying out different ideas, trying to find a way to mount gigantic guns on this build. And I'm thinking maybe I got to go with a big old wide bodied Star Destroyer kind of hull design for this kind of thing. I think it would provide a lot more opportunities to sink in big fixed weapons like these into the hull somewhere. Where this one's just not providing me the space to do that. And then trying to protect those on top of that, and then trying to keep the weight down so the ship is usable, and trying to keep it at a certain core value, and knowing how deadly those ships, I guess, in legacy space are. It's just like I almost kind of like talk myself out of even wanting to do it now. But I want to finish this project. I kind of like, the ship until I got around to messing with this stuff here. Then I go back to my original design here, and it's like, yeah, I don't know if I don't like that either. That's the thing. Like all these setups, I don't like. It's kind of like the with that space station I recently did. I couldn't find any way, or any formation, or anything like that I liked the solar panel setup on it. Like anytime I try to add any kind of solar array, I didn't like it. But it was just so beneficial to have that, especially on a space station, that you definitely want solar panels. And this one, I definitely want big guns, but man, I can't fit them. Now, currently, granted, these are all placeholder turrets, and I was just taking a general look at the CPU. You can see I'm already up there pretty good. And even in motion right now, I guess it's fairly quick at the moment, but it's all carbon yet. I still sort of some xenoblocks in between the things. And I'll probably end up converting this ship back to at least steel, and then try to really build it up in areas. And then it'll be probably fairly slow. Now, right now, too, with this extra strafing thing, it does have actually 3 XL strafing thrusters per side. And again, I like to have this one or a thruster up closer to the front of the ship, as well as the ones in the very back, because they're further away from the center of mass, which helps with especially your yaw speed, or turning rate, which I especially with a combat CV or a miner or something like that, the last thing I want is to have a very slow turn speed. These even that Xerox destroyer in regular space is, I mean, those things can book. I mean, they fly around where you're like going full throttle, trying to catch them, and they're zigging and things like that. And man, if you got a ship that turns slow, it's just going to be all the worse for you, I think. Another approach was to have a high roll speed. This one's not pulling that off very well either. So that's another thing. So it's like, I don't know. It's a tough build. It really is a tough build. It's probably one of your hardest builds you can do, or the kind of creation to build for the game. And I've got some more figuring out to do. But if you guys got any like ideas, I know it's hard to explain an idea if you got something visually in your head, trying to put it in words. But I am all ears. I'm willing to try other things. I'm just kind of running out of ideas on what I can do here to make this work out. One last thing would be to take this whole back area here and build like a secondary reverse thruster housing here, and then try to again recenter like all these guns coming out from the side, like way out here, and then put guns over there. But I have a feeling it's going to kind of remind me of what I got going on over here in some ways, which I didn't really like either. I guess the big problem, like if I was dealing with an older school ship, like the closest thing I can think of that would be to this build that I did in the past would be probably this trebuchet. And it's kind of, I think the trebuchet might be a little bit bigger, but it's not quite as tall, but it's a little wider and a little bit longer. But like I didn't have, like this ship would have the same problem. I got no place to put these big guns on it, unless they were wedged into the sides, but these were like other positions and things like that. And I gotta rethink how to do this. I mean, I have looked at some impressive, like, I don't know, PvP or legacy space type ships in the look at the workshop videos. And generally they were pretty darn big, though, quite a bit bigger than even what this is, or they had big wings or something going on there. Otherwise, you just do not have enough front end real estate on a longer ship like this. And the reason why it's longer in the first place is I wanted that big hitbox, or this big chunk of the ship here, to just take a beating and get blasted to death while you keep all your better guns and stuff back. So you can try to win a battle that way. And it's a tried and true technique. It's just that, yeah, again, the big problem is trying to fit these gigantic guns in a hull, and I don't know where to put them. Now, I even thought about a little bit on the bottom side, like what if these turrets went away, and maybe even this thruster got moved. I don't even know where to put it, but and then have like some guns that, I don't know, hang down from the bottom of the ship or something like that. But I think that it's not going to look good either. So I know this is kind of like a call for help. Please give me some insight. What do you think ought to happen with the hull structure? Again, I'm willing to make some fairly drastic changes to the ship to accommodate things, but I mean, preferably speaking, having the guns out in the back portion of the ship, away from the hull, out in wing extensions, I think would be the best plan. As there's just no, not on this build at least, there's just no way to put them in the hull and keep them safer that way. I'd have to just start like a different build completely, I think. But I like the build generally speaking, except for that part of it, and I'm trying to figure it out. So other than that, that's all I've got for today on this. I'll probably be doing a playthrough with Excalibur this afternoon, and continue our craziness that we typically do. So other than that, you all have yourself a great day, and I will talk to you later.